Okay. Hi, I'm Patrick Michels. I'm editor of the Texas Independent, and I'm here to talk about Rick Perry's chances going forward.
And I'm Andy Birkey with the Minnesota Independent, and I'm going to talk about Michele Bachmann's presidential campaign.
Okay. So both of us are talking here, I think, because we're in states where we had prominent candidates who started out strong and seemed like they were, going to, I don't know, at least, hold some headlines longer than they have, and now they're kind of struggling.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think Michele Bachmann was the first one to rise pretty far in the polls and then have a precipitous decline following the Iowa straw poll. And I think that's about the same thing that happened to Perry, just in a different timeline.
Real quick, just kind of skyrocketing as soon as, before he even announced, and then once people got to know him, he kind of started fizzling here in short order. So it seems like, they're not the only ones who have gone through this sort of boom and bust cycle. And there's still this kind of open question of who's it going to be if not Romney. And, at least for Perry, nobody in Texas is really willing to write him off just because he's come back from such huge deficits before. This 15, 20 point gap between him and Romney doesn't seem like a big challenge compared to his race against Kay Bailey Hutchison last year.
Yeah, true. For Bachmann, she's only ever lost one political race, so this would be her second. Her first was for school board. So she's one we don't count out either. She wasn't expected to ever make it to the House, and she jumped over a few Republicans to get the nomination and defeated a strong Democrat to do it. And so it remains to be seen if she can make a comeback in the polls for president.
Yeah, I mean, Perry's got the same thing going. He's never lost a race, and he just kind of keeps coming back from things. And he was seen, 2 elections ago, he was seen as like the weakest possible governor, like 39% of the vote here in Texas, and he just kind of keeps hanging on. I guess we'll get later to kind of what they're going to be doing to kind of steer their campaigns, from here on out. But one thing we talked about before was the role of their religious support. I think both of these candidates, that's been kind of a big source of support for them as their campaigns got going. We talked the other day about how there are little differences in sort of the evangelical leaders that each of them are courting that may not be so apparent on the face of this contest.
That's true. For Michele Bachmann, she's built a pretty strong campaign base of evangelicals, particularly conservative evangelicals, around social issues and support for Israel are some of the big things she always talks about. And she's built a really strong network of homeschoolers, actually, which I'm not sure that Perry's really tapped into.
Yeah.
For instance, her congressional campaigns utilize a group called Generation Joshua, which is kind of a evangelical training ground for young politicos. So she'll have high school students campaigning for her in her district. So, and I think that'll translate to a national race as well.
Yeah, Perry's main religious overtures, I guess, came just before he announced, with his prayer rally in Houston, and all of the leaders, kind of rallied behind the American Family Association, and a lot of the same folks had been there for him before when he was running for governor last year, and they organized these pastor policy briefings, and they had big meetings that, in a lot of ways, kind of this year have seemed to anoint him as the kind of the leader of the religious right. And it seems like for the most part that support is still there. He had a couple little hiccups, in his efforts to court them, I guess. But really, those folks seem like they're standing by him pretty well, even through the rise of Herman Cain.
Yeah, and I think Michele Bachmann was just talking to the Family Research Council, which is kind of like the AFA, probably a different subset of social conservatives. But she's spent, a great deal of time at a press conference with the FRC talking about these social issues, trying to shore up her base, and probably get some of the social conservatives that are peeling back from Kaine right now, I would imagine.
So do you feel like that support is going to help her kind of gain any more momentum from here, or is this kind of as good as it gets for her?
I think that her best bet to gain that support is probably in Iowa and South Carolina. She's putting a lot of energy into Iowa, and the Republican base there is pretty socially conservative. You got organizations like the Family Leader, which is affiliated with the Family Research Council. So there's a built-in network there of potential caucus goers that could go for her. I don't know. Have you heard anything about the strength of the AFA's caucusers?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for Perry, I feel like, is that there was a whole voter mobilization drive that has kind of come out of the response. It's a lot of folks from the AFA that are involved in going through voter rolls and looking for people who look like Christians based on what magazines they've subscribed to and where they live, and making sure that those folks get registered to vote. And a lot of those folks are people who've thrown support behind Perry before. And they're actually having a pretty big pay-per-view televised event this weekend. It's going to be nationwide. So that'll be interesting to see, how much, I think Perry was invited to speak there, but I don't know that he's going to make an appearance.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, they're definitely active as well.
How do you think Texans see Perry's ability to rebound? Do they think he'll do it? Is he going to get back in this?
I don't think that was ever a doubt for anyone in Texas, really. I mean, that's kind of the presumption is that, until the moment he drops out of this, there's always that promise or that danger that's what's going to happen. And just because he's always shown this kind of uncanny ability to hang in there, and really, I mean, Kaine has shown the same thing. And if Gingrich is the next guy, then how long is he going to stay up there? It doesn't seem like anyone's made their mind up yet.
That makes sense. And for Minnesotans, the difference between our two candidates, Bachmann's never been a statewide candidate. She's always been a member of the House. So, and her popularity in the state isn't very high. She usually polls in favorability around 30 to 40%. So I don't think it would be fair to say most Minnesotans want to see her keep going. However, she does have quite a bit of support in the state. I think that, with Pawlenty dropping out as early as he did, she's the home state girl.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Do you have any comments to make before we hang it up?
Well, I mean, I guess the other thing that I thought was interesting that you kind of touched on is this idea of, at least for Perry, the outsider image has been so big for him. When the guy's going to go to Washington and shake things up. And that's something I think that as voters nationwide have gotten to see him. All of the stuff that's kind of dogging his campaign is about the cronyism charges and mismanagement of the state and those sort of things. You get the sense that's kind of dragged him down and shown that he doesn't necessarily own that outsider image the way that he might like to talk about it. Well, that's obviously a big deal for Bachmann as well.
Yeah, she's often courted the outsider image even before she planned on running for president. In fact, but most of her career has been built on the outsider. As a state senator, she was taking on causes no one else was taking on, and even blaming Republicans when her cause would fail.
Mm-hmm.
So, she's cultivated that image. I don't know, once you get into presidential politics, how easy it is to maintain that image, but
yeah,
I know that she's going to try.